You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please.
Good afternoon. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the USA Niagara Development Corporation for Monday, March 20th, 2023. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast, and I will also note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting the written comments by 4:30 p.m. on Thursday. I'd like to further note for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. The directors have all received relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to the items on the agenda. If so, I'd ask that you please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote regarding such item. Hearing none, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the January 26th, 2023 directors meeting. But before we do that, I'd like to turn it over to Anthony Velardo.
Thanks, Chairman. I just want to inform the directors that Director Williamson has tendered his resignation after over 10 years of tremendous service to this board. we want to make sure we publicly thank him for all his work, time, energy, and talents that he contributed to USA Niagara. Just a couple quick updates for the directors. We have an RFP live for properties along Second Street. That was part of the Strategic Land Acquisition Program. There will be a pre-bid meeting on April 18th, and proposals will be due on May 15th for that. You previously approved a contract with POW for design of the Heritage Gateways project that is currently under design. We're very excited to bring you updates when they should be made available. And lastly, as part of the governor's Regional Revitalization Partnership, which is for Buffalo, Rochester, and Niagara Falls, we're working with ESD, the parent organization, on a RFP for the Niagara Falls City Market. We hosted a webinar on March 14th, and proposals for assistance for the city market are due back on April 27th. Thank you.
Great. For the record, and certainly I think I'm probably, other than you, Anthony, I probably served with Michael the longest on this board, and I think you might have had an opportunity, Chandra and Scott, maybe once or twice at the most with Michael, but I want to thank him for his service. He was a wonderful board member, always involved with the issues that were before us, and I wish him well, but I really respect him and appreciate that he was here with us for as long as he was, which I think, Anthony, how many years was it? 10 years?
Over 10.
Over 10 years. So
we were trying to, we couldn't find the initial thing quickly, but we know it was at least 10 years. So.
Yeah. So he did, he served us well. Let's put it that way.
Wonderful board member.
So moving on with the approval of the board minutes, may I have a motion, please? Sure. Chandra?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, deletions? If not, may I have I did it backwards. No, can I have a motion for approval? Yes. Second, yes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. The motion carries. And I'd like to call upon Anthony Velardo to present the next item on today's agenda, approval of the corporation's operating budget for fiscal year 2023-24. When you're ready, Anthony.
Thank you, Chairman. Directors, the state finance law requires that prior to the commencement of each fiscal year for New York State, which is April 1st, the directors of USA Niagara Development Corporation must adopt an annual operating budget and capital budget. Attached for your review and approval are the proposed USA Niagara fiscal year 23-24 operating and capital budgets. The operating budget proposes a total of $634,579 in personnel services, salaries, and benefits for 4.5 employees. It's 4.5. Rob splits his time between our office and the Western New York regional office at ESD. And a total of $127,578 in non-personnel services. This is primarily our office occupancy, insurance, and other administrative expenses, copier leases, office supplies, things of that nature. The total budget personnel and non-personnel expenses for the fiscal year are $762,157. Our capital projects are individually approved by the corporation's board of directors under separate actions. The corporation's fiscal year capital budget is $74,994,760. This includes but is not limited to design and other soft costs, legal costs, property management and maintenance costs, insurance costs, demolition and site clearance, construction costs, and other miscellaneous expenses. Based upon the recommendations, based upon the foregoing, the directors are requested to ratify and approve the corporation's proposed fiscal year 2023-24 operating budget in the amount of $762,157 and a capital budget in the amount of $74,094,760. Again, this is subject to individual project approvals by the board, and to authorize the corporation to undertake tasks and incur expenditures consistent with advancing the scope of work contemplated in the proposed budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Are there any questions or comments from the directors regarding this item?
Do we need to take them separately or as one?
No, I think it's one.
That's fine.
Yeah, we can do it all together. What percentage increase is this, Anthony?
Percentage increase?
Let me see. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
From last year, it's 15%.
50%.
Generous, right?
Mhm.
I think so.
From that, but in other years, it was higher, but we've seen
Really?
it dip it, yeah.
All right, very good. We do not have any comments from the public regarding this item. So may I have a motion for approval?
Motion.
Scott? Chandra, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Anthony, let's go forward with our second agenda item, a request for approval of the Niagara Falls Conference and Convention Center and Old Fall Street calendar year 2023 operating and capital budgets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to present first or second? Do you want me to review the item and then have them?
Oh, would you do?
Jason and Andrea are here.
We may have them make their presentation
Yes.
first. Okay, so let's deviate a little
I'm
bit.
gonna ask, with us today, we have Andrea Zopp, the Chief Operating Officer at Destination Niagara, and Jason Merja, our General Manager at Old Fall Street in the Niagara Falls Convention Center, present an update to the board.
Thank you very much. The Niagara Falls Convention Center experienced a record-breaking year in 2022. It was the first year in the history of the building, which opened in 2004, whereby we achieved a profit. There are two main reasons why we achieved this lofty goal. One, the event, Cephalon, which is otherwise known as Dr. Joe, brought in over $1.3 million just within the four walls of our convention center. This helped offset the roughly $500,000 that we lost in the first quarter of 2022 due to COVID. So COVID still impacted our business, not as severely as the previous year, but it definitely impacted us by no less than $500,000. The second reason why we had such an amazing year was that the Destination Niagara took control of the management rights to the Niagara Falls Convention Center. And there are three main areas where we've recognized the savings of almost $250,000 in a year. And those savings are the monthly management fee, the payroll services, and the incentive fees that were being paid out. Those alone, those three, have a savings of roughly $275,000. Those monies are reinvested right into the building. The convention center market and the special events market are the two segments in our industry that provide the highest economic return. We roughly did about $3.1 million in sales last year. 2.4 of that was specifically in the convention center market. That translated roughly into 31,660 room nights with an economic impact of over $12.1 million. To give some historical perspective, in 2017, economic impact was roughly 6.1. In 18 was roughly 5.9. 2019, which was another Dr. Joe Cephalon year, was 8.6. Take out the COVID years, unfortunately. And this year we achieved roughly $12.1 million in economic impact. Moving ahead in 2023, we're going to be going back to our traditional pattern without the Cephalon group, but we will have we're going to invest heavily in the convention center and special event market, because again, they provide the highest yield for economic impact in downtown Niagara Falls. Again, another historical perspective, because we believe in the convention center market. Downtown is ready for the convention center market. We've known that we could also do a citywide conference the size of Dr. Joe. So in 2018, our segment was roughly $1.7 million in convention center market. 19, it was $2.2 million, and in 2022 was 2.3. So again, the emphasis is going to be on convention center and special event market. 50 to 60% of our revenue is derived in the year for the year. Sometimes that poses challenges in our budget year. But since January 1 of this year, we've already recognized $400,000 in new business alone. And we started the year with much more monies on the books than we have previous year. So we are trending in the right direction. And I feel with the emphasis of Destination Niagara and all their branding and what they bring to the table in terms of their marketing and advertising expertise. And you could see some of those things with the new signage in and outside of our building, the social media aspect, them taking over all of our digital media has really, really been a huge impact for not only our business, but yet the downtown community. I don't know if there's any questions. I'll be more than happy to entertain any questions relative to the convention center.
Well, I want to congratulate you both
Yeah.
for the good job in improving the financial picture, at least for the conference center. I don't know who Dr. Joe is. But, he must have quite a following.
He has an amazing following. When we first did the event back in 2019, we actually beat out downtown Toronto for this event, which is pretty amazing. They travel all over the world. Before they came to us, they were in Dubai, to be quite frank. We had roughly 1,700 people for a 7-day conference. When I say the whole downtown Niagara Falls catered to this event, and the impact it had downtown is significant. We are already in talks with them for 2024. We want to solidify them. They love coming to Niagara Falls. And there's several reasons why. But when we compete against a first-tier community like a Toronto or a Boston, first and foremost, it's the actual falls. Number two, it's the affordability. The prices that they pay versus when they go to another first-tier market are substantially higher.
Sure.
And the guest experience that not only we provided to Convention Center, but the whole downtown community provided for them. So it's amazing to see that we already have 2 years under our belt, and we are in talks with them to get to solidify and bring them back in 2024. In addition, we are also talking to another group that participated in that conference to bring in another conference of that size magnitude. They are just not up to speed with their logistics yet, but we're looking at possibly another convention of that magnitude to come to our downtown area.
What was the profit for last year
For Dr. Joe event or for overall?
overall?
It was roughly, we got our audit back last week, it was roughly $8,000.
Well, better to be in black than be in
You know
red,
what?
right?
Listen, if you win
I'll
by
take
one
that.
or if you win by 100.
Yeah, no, listen,
Yeah.
I'll take it, right?
Across the country, there's maybe a handful of sites. Jacobs Javits Center, Orlando, Las Vegas. Pretty, right? Other than that, I don't know if there are any centers, everything
Every convention center.
runs to the red, right? They're all lost leaders.
We're all lost leaders, absolutely, absolutely.
They
I-
drive
I
hotel
agree.
revenue.
So, well, then even more
Yeah.
to say thank you and congratulations. Moving the services over to
To
Destination
Jason's
Niagara.
point, it wouldn't
I
be
think it's made a
possible
huge difference.
without that partnership with Destination Niagara.
Yeah,
Our missions are aligned, we both exist for the same purpose, so it's been a really good
It's a
working
good move.
relationship.
The only thing I would add, not to belabor anything Jason already has said, but, changing the name to the Niagara Falls Convention Center, while locally that might feel parochial, that does make a really big difference in the
Sure.
meetings and conventions market. We did a fair amount of discussions with meeting planners early on in this process and found from them that when they hear the word conference center, they associate that more with a hotel that has
right,
meeting
Meetings.
space,
Right.
not necessarily a convention center of this size. Now,
Right.
granted, we're not necessarily a convention center the size of a first-tier market, but this put us in a different position and gave us better footing to go after the Albany Associations market and getting ourselves back into the national market in Washington, DC. And
great,
so, we actually have from our own budget on our own side that doesn't impact this budget, our own effort that goes after this meetings and conventions market as well. So it's almost double the fun.
what's it look like this year for events?
Right now, you have how much on the books so far?
So right now, we're looking at a roughly conservative estimate based on our numbers and how we forecast. We're guaranteed roughly about 2.8 million. Having said that, there are a lot of bids out there that are not in that forecast. We roughly close about 40% of what we send out. But again, knowing that number and knowing that we get 40 to 50% in the year for the year, it's very easily that we could, again, go over the $3 million mark.
Okay,
but on the books, roughly 2.8.
Chandra, I'm sorry.
What's the size of a convention conference that you can?
Our sweet spot right now is roughly 300 to 500 people. Currently, right now, for example, we have the Western New York teacher recruitment in. It was a piece that was an event that was in Buffalo for many years. We have successfully brought them over the bridges. They are very happy. They're on their second year being here. But traditionally, 300 to 500 person is our sweet spot. Now, having said that, we've also done to the extreme a cephalon group, which was 1,700 people for 7 days. So
It's just probably about the biggest we can handle in the building.
outside of that event, when I say that really pushes the limits to downtown Niagara Falls, that event does. But very rarely do we have an issue with hotel rooms or occupancy outside the sweet spot of 300 to 500 person conference.
Now, I would imagine the size of these conventions and conferences have come down. Overall, right?
Maybe nationally, Francine, but one of the reasons why the third tier markets have rebounded quicker than more on the first tier communities is that the third tier communities are smaller and we're able to bounce back quicker than the larger communities were.
Because basically what they're doing now is, for instance, the New York State Association markets, or the national markets. They'll do a Northeast Association meeting instead of the entire country's association meeting. So they are breaking them up and keeping them more regionally, which helps us for sure.
Great. Directors, anybody else have any questions for Andrea or Jason?
Thank you both.
I need to, we're gonna approve their, I guess you want your budget approved. Does anybody have any questions about their budget, directors? If not, we do not have any comments from the public, but I will entertain a motion for approval.
Second. I had to present that item.
Oh, dear God, Anthony, I'm sorry, I thought we were done.
After he's done presenting.
Okay, Anthony, I'm completely bypassing you,
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. My apologies.
No worries, directors. As you know, USA Niagara Development Corp. is the owner and developer of the Niagara Falls Convention Center. The board of directors on October 12th, 2021 authorizes to enter into a 5-year agreement with Destination Niagara, otherwise known as the Niagara Tourism and Convention Corporation, to provide management services for the convention center and the city of Niagara Falls owned Old Fall Street on a 5-year term beginning January 1st, 2022. For the calendar year 2023, the funding source will be made available through the New York State Budget Appropriation for projects located in Niagara Falls through the Regional Economic and Community Assistance Program, otherwise known colloquially as RECAP. And then USA Niagara continues to work at identifying additional funding sources to ensure that future budgets are fully funded and no USAN corporate funds will be used in these budgets. The proposed calendar year 23 operating budget for the Niagara Falls Convention Center is $274,792, and the operating budget for Old Fall Street is $699,773. A combined operating budget for the two entities of $674,565. The proposed calendar year 23 capital budget for the Niagara Falls Convention Center is $525,435, and the capital for Old Fall Street is $115,500. The capital budget for Niagara Falls Convention Center includes a building control system updates at $389,000 and emergency repairs for $20,000. Including the OFS capital budget is $23,500 for a utility vehicle, which is needed on the street to move, like a gator type thing to move stuff around, and $87,000 for holiday decor, including, which we think will be really cool. How tall is this?
30 feet.
So, on Old Fall Street this year, in addition to some other great things that they keep developing, and Jingle Falls and things like that, we'll have a walk-through Christmas tree on Old Fall Street. That'll kind of be one of a kind in the Western New York area, so we're excited about that. For a capital budget between the two entities of $815,273. Our requested action, the directors are requested to approve USA Niagara's proposed calendar year 2023 Niagara Falls Convention Center and Old Fall Street operating and capital budgets in an amount not to exceed $1,500,000, and to approve the Niagara Falls Convention Center and Old Fall Street's funding for the first quarter of 2024, the calendar year, in an amount not to exceed $250,000. This is slightly different than the past. Typically, we come back and have a second. We thought we would roll it into one action item for the board. So we're going to come back to you for that first quarter next year.
Okay, so let me repeat myself. Thank you, Anthony. Sorry about all that.
No worries.
So, do we have any questions or comments from the directors? And I will entertain a motion for approval, please. Chandra?
Approval?
Second.
No, the motion carries. Anthony, sorry, what? The motion carries. I'm sorry. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you, the motion carries. Sorry about that. Anthony's going to present the next item on today's agenda, which relates to a request for authorization to designate community services for everyone as the preferred developer in connection with the First Street Apartment Building Development Project.
Thank you, Chairwoman. We are proposing the designation of a preferred developer status to undertake the First Street Apartment Building Development Project in the city of Niagara Falls. This project involves the construction of a 6-story mixed-use building located on a portion of property at the corner of First and Old Fall Street in downtown Niagara Falls. This is kitty corner from our building here. This was initially built as Falls Street Station back in the 1980s as part of urban renewal. When we RFP'd this property, we contemplated it being subdivided into 2 or more parcels. So we were talking about the northern portion of this building on the far side from where we sit of the First Presbyterian Church. This proposed facility will have approximately 78 apartments and 4,700 square feet of commercial space occupied by the preferred developer. The proposed unit mix includes studio, 1 and 2 bedroom units, targeting households earning up to 56% or 80 to 90% of the area median income, with rents ranging from $822 to $1,052 for 1-bedroom apartments and $987 to $1,402 for 2-bedroom apartments. This is in line with what the market rates are in downtown Niagara Falls. The development team is also exploring the additional market rate apartments. The proposed units will meet the total local need for new housing, while street level commercial and community spaces will be contribute to activity and street life. We advertised this RFP in the New York State Contract Reporter in September of 2021. A selection committee consisting of representatives from USA Niagara, ESD, Niagara Falls State Parks, and the City of Niagara Falls reviewed the responses to the RFP against an evaluation criteria measuring various aspects of each proposal. The committee determined that the proposal for community services for everyone, supported by the development partner Edgemere Development, and I'd like to make note that Edgemere is represented here today, would best meet the evaluation criteria stated in the RFP and the best value option purposes of constructing a building on the northern portion of this property, which we will henceforth call Parcel B. Community service for everyone is proposed in a 78-unit apartment building with approximately 4,700 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. And I'd like to make note, there's a typographical error in your agenda. The project estimated total is $35.8 million. So our requested action of the directors is first, to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed preferred developer. 2, authorize and designate community services for everyone as the preferred developer of this development of Parcel B. And 3, to take all related actions. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for being here from Edgemere. Thank you for entering into this project.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. As I mentioned earlier with other items, we do not have any comments from the public regarding this particular item. So if I may entertain a motion for approval.
Motion for approval.
A second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. So thank you. The motion carries. Anthony's going to present the next item on today's agenda, which relates to a request for authorization for the corporation to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. Anthony?
Thank you, Chairwoman. USA Niagara Development Corporation and the New York State Office of Parks have regularly partnered for the mutual benefit of Niagara Falls State Park and other state parks located within the city of Niagara Falls, including Devil's Hole, Whirlpool, and DeVoe Woods State Parks. As part of the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget, Governor Kathy Hochul determined that the improvement of the Niagara Falls waterfront is a priority, which will benefit the recreational, tourism, and economic development potential for our community. On February 9th, 2023, New York State Historic Preservation Officer listed Shokoff Hall at DeVoe Woods State Park, located at 2900 Lewiston Road, Niagara Falls, on the State Register of Historic Places. recognizing the historical and cultural significance of the project site and to expand the available recreational and tourism-focused offerings, USA Niagara and State Parks seek to partner together in an effort to preserve and stabilize the project site, as well as prepare the project site for future potential adaptive reuse. The scope of work of the project will include abatement of all hazardous materials which have been exposed and do not require demolition to reach, installation of structural shoring to ensure integrity of compromised roof structures, particularly the north and south ends of the building, installation of temporary roofs over compromised flat roof sections, and additional miscellaneous associated items required to stabilize the structure and ensure safety for potential future work. I'd like to know it's not in the package, but we've previously issued 2 RFPs, for the site in conjunction with state parks. And we believe that this has been an impediment to getting an adaptive reuse project there. So we would like to partner with them on this. The funding source for the project will be provided through a sub-allocation of the New York State budget appropriation made available for projects located in Niagara Falls through the Regional Economic Community Assistance Program, otherwise known as RECAP, in the fiscal year 2022-23 Niagara and Buffalo waterfront projects. Funding is subject to availability of New York State funds, and no corporate USA Niagara funds will be used as part of this project. We will enter into a MOU with state parks, who will lead all aspects of construction administration for the project. They will assign a project manager as well as any additional staff responsible in assisting the project and all project administration costs. Both us and state parks will assign at least 1 staff member to serve as project point of contact for the project, and state parks will provide USA Niagara with a copy or access to copies of all relevant project documentation. Following the director's approval, should you choose to approve this item, and completion pending a ESD legal review, USAN and state parks will then execute the memorandum of understanding. So our request action of you today is based on the foregoing. The directors are requested to authorize the corporation to enter into an MOU with New York State Parks Office of Historic Preservation for the Shokroff Falls Stabilization Project, and to provide funds to state parks on the terms and conditions set forth in these materials. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Anthony. Do any of the directors have any questions or comments regarding this particular item? This should be interesting. I hope it works.
Well, it's, after a couple failed attempts, we'd be foolish to keep doing the same thing, so we try something new here.
I'd love to see the blueprint floor plan for the building.
Yeah.
Never been in there.
Oh, we can get you in, sure.
Well, I don't like going in there. I have to be sure.
I've been in there and it's not pretty. You gotta wait until the
Yeah.
good stuff.
No, you were in there legally, right? Because there's a lot of
Legally,
people.
with state-
Oh, no.
There were state parks.
Who've been in through the windows.
Yeah.
When Jason was a young hoodlum, he used to.
Yeah.
I may have partaken with someone you
I don't
know,
know.
Sean.
I don't know anybody.
That's all we got.
You can confess.
What are your prospective uses for that building?
I think we kind of envision that as a potential, boutique hotel, spa, something higher end that's, kind of tucked into the state park. With the continued removal of the Ramos Parkway, it has increased access to the waterfront there. And, it's kind of stringing along that waterfront experience. Is my, mentor here would say, a continuous green ribbon along, the lower Niagara River.
I wondered if there was a space big enough for an event venue, like weddings, smaller weddings or anything like that.
And, given the, the beauty of the park, you could conceive, development team saying, okay, we're gonna have this as a lodge element and maybe construct something very tasteful that goes along with it.
Yeah, and a school. So
Right.
I'm picturing like a school, big classroom size that you could.
No, these rooms are, this was the dorm portion.
Oh.
So the school buildings have
So
since been
imagine
lost.
lots of small rooms down the hallways, that's why it lends itself.
It's a central
Yeah.
corridor,
Yeah, okay.
with shared, restrooms.
Sure. We do not have any comments from the public on this item, so may I entertain a motion for approval, please?
Motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. So the motion, thank you, the motion carries. The final item on today's agenda is a presentation. No, we already did that.
Already.
Yeah. Unless you guys want to take a second round at it, but no, we're good.
I'd like to hear it again.
I would love to.
All good news.
Listen, if there is no other further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much for everyone. This is one of our longer meetings.
Mhm.
I think the last one,
32 minutes.
the last one we only had 2 items on the agenda, so we've outdone ourselves today. So anyway, thank you everyone for participating and for attending today's meeting. Thank you, New York.
Thank you.
We're done.
You're not-